Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the live Q&A with me, Professor Michael Scott. It is the 17th of December. Christmas is, just about less than a week away. I hope that you guys are all safe and well and that you have been finally getting into the festive spirit in whatever way that we can, wherever you happen to be this Christmas. Now, you might not think that this scene behind me looks very festive or very different from any other time of the year, but I can assure you that we are getting into the festive spirit here with you as well. And I'm going to introduce you to someone who's extremely important in my Christmas world. This chap over here is Rudolph, who has been with me for many years. And if you'll appreciate a little bit of background music, this is what I love about him in particular. And there we go. Yes, this is an excellent dancing reindeer. And I'm just going to leave him going in the background for a little bit while he dances away around by my ear. It might look a little bit dodgy while he's shaking his booty a little bit, like kind of near my face, but you know, we're just going to leave him going. I hope that you guys are getting into your Christmas spirit and Christmas festivities and decorating the house absolutely to the nines this year. I think we all absolutely deserve it. This guy kind of is the one that brings a smile to my face and some Christmas cheer at every opportunity. Anyway, we've had some great faces. Rudolph, we love you. I'm going to put you slightly, turn you around. There you go. The whole world can see you there. Rudolph, some love for Rudolph, please. Yes, indeed. We need some good love for Rudolph going on here. And I hope that you guys have your favourite characters that you bring out at Christmas time as well. So do let us know through the Facebook page. They don't have to be classical, but let us know through the Facebook page which are your favourite classical characters that really make a difference to you and really bring Christmas home wherever you might be in the world. He will switch off eventually. I promise you that. I will leave him going just down on the side. And you see, I just can't help laughing, but I love him. Right, he's going to switch off soon. And you can hear him gently in the background, serenading us all in the meantime. Thank you all for tuning in. I had forgotten last time to talk a little bit about some of the amazing responses that you guys kind of came up with for the 4 great questions that we were asking you. Linda Montague asked, who is your favourite Greek Roman god or goddess and why? And we've had some brilliant responses. People are going for Athena, some for Hades, some for Prometheus, Poseidon, Athena, Asclepius. So there's some great responses there. Sarah Scotty asked, what items would you want to take with you into the afterlife, Pharaoh style? Thank you, Rudolph. Have I been at the sherry? Sarah asked. Not yet, Sarah. No, not yet. I absolutely promise you. But Rudolph I would play Rudolph constantly and probably will have him nearby fairly constantly through the Christmas period. I'm absolutely in love with that little character. Sarah, you asked, what items would you want to take with you into the afterlife, Pharaoh style? Linda was saying you're going to take some of your books, your Egyptian cat ornament, and some extra Sappho's ancient writings. Vilaya talked about a photo album full of pictures. That was a popular one. Too many people talking about their iPhones. Not going to be taking those into the afterlife. You're wondering about the service, the quality of the phone service in the afterlife. Alexis, you're going to take a tin of pedigree chum in order to please Cerberus. Anna says Rudolph is definitely not coming into my afterlife. Anna, what's not to love about Rudolph? Honestly. Right, Leslie, you'd like a packet of wildflower seeds and some tweezers alongside your potato masher. This is a very specific list. I like it. Noran, you want your iPhone as well and her piano. Hugh, your personal trainer. Catherine Gin, 2020 has definitely got to you. A number of you want your books with you. Some of you say, I can't be without my lip balm, even in the afterlife. A bottomless bottle of good Merlot. And some of the others of you talk about a bit of chocolate. I think that's absolutely right. And your PlayStation as well, you'd like that. And then we had some other great questions here. Memo was like, if you could travel back in time for one day only, what day would you choose? And these were some brilliant, I love the suggestions here going all over the ancient world. Some people would like to be there the day of Alexander the Great's burial. Some would like to go back to the time when humans, Homo sapiens and Neanderthals lived at the same time. You'd love to go back, Eliana, to post-colonial Alexander Alexandria in the 1940s and 50s and spend the day with your grandparents and great-grandparents. That's absolutely brilliant. Erin wants to go to about 5th century Sparta. Ooh, okay. Ursula wants to go for a normal, peaceful day in Augustan Rome. I love this. Fiona would like to spend the eve of the Battle of Thermopylae with Leonidas. Craig would like to see the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Steve Jobs, Sarah says, since Steve Jobs has already passed over, then surely iPhones will work in the afterlife. I don't know if I want WhatsApp messaging to be able to get me in the afterlife, to be frankly. Andy wants to go and see a play, a 5th century play, some Aristophanes. And Jonathan wants to go to Marathon in 490 BC to the battlefield or indeed to Troy. And then Dawn asked this, if you had a time machine and could go back to visit just one person from the ancient world, who would it be, and what one question would you ask them? I think this is absolutely brilliant as well. Some of you want to go and have a chat with Leonardo da Vinci. Some of you want to go and see Richard III and ask what he really did re his nephews. Someone would like to go meet, Tamas would like to go meet Plato and say, why on earth didn't you write more clearly? Which I quite agree with, Tamas, sometimes I really do. Dawn, I want to visit Ovid, have a chat with Ovid. Sarah, you'd like to go to the Silk Road and chat to the merchants and travellers of the ancient Silk Road. Love that. Eddie would like to ask Cleopatra what actually happened at the Battle of Actium. I like this. Euripides, you'd like to ask him how he was able to write so well for women and for his female characters. Interesting. Okay. We've had some rather joke ones, which were on the Facebook page. I won't read out on it. Catherine, you asked, you'd go back and ask Noah why he let mosquitoes and tarantula spiders onto the ark. I know quite a few people who would agree with you, particularly the tarantula spiders. Tony, you'd ask the Sybil, could I buy all of your volumes, please? The first time you asked. Lots of you talking about going to meet and see and talk to Jesus and his disciples. Absolutely really interesting. Or indeed the Buddha as well. Socrates' wife. Yvonne says, I'd like to talk to Socrates' wife to find out what they actually lived on and whether he ever gave a straight answer to a straight question. I think that's a great one. William Milton Homer, you'd like to go and listen actually to Homer. Jenny would like to talk to Xerxes and have a stiff word with Xerxes before he went on to attack Greece. George would like to be able to talk to the Apollonius, the seated boxer, the guy who posed for the seated boxer, and just give him one big brotherly hug because sometimes we all feel that tired and downhearted. Absolutely. Kind of brilliant. Thank you so much for your fantastic responses to all those great questions. And we'll flag one more up for you before you go that you can be thinking about over the Christmas period. Yes, indeed, were some of tier 2, tier 3s, kind of that we need some good stuff to get by over the Christmas holiday. So Helen, I'm glad that you've got an ancient world by your side, and hopefully that will keep you going through the festive period. I definitely recommend a glass of wine or two while you're reading through that. And we've got some time to get on with some of your great questions. So a couple that were asked live last time that I didn't get a chance to answer. Toby Tullia, how can classicists, researchers from the countries where there is not classical heritage, so say in South America, for example, contribute to the knowledge of the ancient Greek and Roman past? Now, this is a really interesting question, isn't it? Because there are very active classics departments in countries where there are not classical, by this we mean Greek and Roman, remains to be seen. I'm thinking about South America as well, because I spent some time in Rio as a lecturer back in 2010, lecturing on ancient Greek democracy there in Rio, but there's also flourishing departments of classics in Sao Paulo, for instance. So South America would be an obvious one. But equally thinking in Australia. Now, obviously, these cultures have been affected by the cultures of Greece and Rome because of the ways in which other modern cultures have decided to incorporate the values of Greece and Rome or react against those values and thus kind of bring institutions and ideas with them. So these countries and cultures that don't directly have ruins in them or ancient Greeks and Romans weren't directly walking through them are still impacted by those of Greece and Rome, and still so thus have something very interesting to say about how Greece and Rome has affected and impacted and influenced the development of their cultures even at a distance. But equally, I think one of the most interesting areas that's really developing now is in the comparative study as well. So people who may well be versed in particular ancient cultures from their countries and actually starting to do comparative historical work where you compare and contrast different ancient cultures that may not have interacted with one another in reality, but actually through comparing and contrasting the way they approach different ideas, different themes, different kind of problems and issues, you get to, as a result of that comparison, understand what makes each particular individual culture special and different and unique, and what kind of made it tick really that contributed to its unique kind of cultural signifier and identity compared to others. So I think that comparative aspect, whether it's in relation to the history of cultures, or you can actually do it in comparison to particular literary creations, right? Kind of literary creations of one culture and country compared against that of Greece and Rome. And equally now, of course, there's a really kind of developing area and interest in saying, okay, well, how do researchers and the wider public coming from South America or China or Japan or kind of any other part of the world, how do they, with their kind of unique cultural take on the world, interact with the ancient Greek and Roman texts? What does a Brazilian reading Ovid make of Ovid as opposed to an Australian reading Ovid make of Ovid, or a Chinese scholar or reader kind of making use of Ovid? So there's quite a lot of dialogue there about how do our backgrounds, our different cultural backgrounds, actually affect the way we read into these texts. So Toby, I think this is an absolutely brilliant question, and I think there's lots and lots and lots that can be gained from kind of people from all over the world, from all kinds of backgrounds, studying and engaging with this material, because at its very core, what's so amazing about so much of the literature in particular coming out of the Greek and Roman world is that it speaks to universal human values, universal human ideas, universal human problems, universal human emotions, right? So we can all relate to the material that is there. What's interesting is how we relate to it differently because of who we are and where we come from. So Toby, great question. Thank you so much for that. Tracy Rabaiotti, you asked a question live last week, saying, are there many or any sources written by women? I thought this is a great question. Kind of lots written about women, lots written in which there are female characters, but actually kind of have we got a good chunk of surviving texts that are written by women? Now, the most obvious one, I guess people would suggest straight off the bat, is, of course, Sappho. And yes, actually, when you start to think about it and look at the lists of poets that we have surviving, not always in the entirety of their writings, just like with Sappho, we've got bits and bobs and then it kind of moves out of focus, etc., or bits that are copied and are surviving in other ancient texts that are kind of quoted later on down the line. But there's actually a whole raft of female poets from the ancient Mediterranean world that we know existed and who were writing, and bits and bobs of their writing have survived, or at least been quoted, or at least we're told about their writing from antiquity. So kind of lots of poets, including Sappho. But then I was thinking about this, actually doing a bit of Googling around and researching, and there's some quite interesting kind of female writing across a whole range of segments of different kinds of writing. Alexis saying, would women write under a male name to get circulated? No, not always. No, because, for example, we even have historians, female ancient historians writing. Nicole Boulet was a female ancient historian writing. We have physicians, alchemists who were women. There was Cleopatra the alchemist, not the Cleopatra, different Cleopatra the physician, Cleopatra the alchemist, writing with her kind of medical insights. And we have a bunch of philosophical texts as well surviving that we know were written by women. So Essaria of Lucania, for instance, like kind of writing as one of the kind of ancient female philosophers. So I think, Tracy, this is a great question, and actually starting to gather together the fragments that we have surviving of these writers, and perhaps trying to suggest kind of what might this be accumulating as, what kind of approach and and understanding can we see coming from this very different perspective of people who we know in most ancient societies were given very little political rights, for instance, were given but a hugely important, often religious role within cultures and societies. So it'd be interesting to see kind of what their take, for example, is on history writing, what's kind of actually important for them to record as history. What was their take on kind of medical practice? What were their philosophical takes, as well as, of course, their poetic takes and thoughts about ancient societies and ancient life? Rebecca's saying, it'd be great if these could be put together in a selection. Yeah, absolutely. Kind of that would be a great idea. And Tracy, so not only thank you for the great question, but also, if I'm reading this rightly off Twitter, we should all send congratulations to you as well, because you have just started or about to start classical studies course at the Open University, having been kind of having your love of the ancient world kind of reignited, and you've taken that one step further and you are starting out on a classical studies course at the Open University. Bravo, brilliant, absolutely fantastic, well done, and I wish you all the very, very best with it indeed. So Tracy, thank you so much for that. Ashley's also been in touch. I asked live last time that you were watching Italy's Invisible Cities, and you were asking what fascinated us the most about the visits to Florence, Naples and Venice. What was the kind of one thing that you wanted to pick out? And I was thinking about this, there's so many amazing individual places, but in terms of a thing or a theme, I think the thing that really got me in that series was the way that a number of the underground spaces we went to had actually been repurposed and reutilised after their initial creation. Brilliant. Some great love for Tracy going out there. Well done. That's absolutely fab. So in Naples, for instance, when we went into, and these aren't the ancient bits, but the Bourbon tunnels that were built to kind of act as escape hatches for the Bourbon rulers, that kind of actually they were repurposed, particularly during the Second World War, as bomb shelters. And so these escape tunnels for Bourbon rulers who were worried about riots and kind of mass rebellions against their rule, it never really saved any of them, but actually those same tunnels that they created ended up becoming incredibly important bomb shelters for large numbers, large swathes of the Neapolitan population during the Second World War that actually did save their lives. So a place built to save one person actually ended up saving many. So it's kind of that reuse of those different underground spaces, how they've been repurposed and thought about over the period of time, which as a result ended up creating these connections all the way back through time, back to the ancient Greeks and Romans. So actually, thank you so much for that question. That was absolutely brilliant. And thank you all for your great questions we asked live last time. I'm going to come back to some more new questions that have been asked in the meantime, but we have to talk a little bit about in the news and what's new coming up. So from Live Science, Roman subjects paid emperors piles of silver to leave them alone, says Live Science. A new inscription dating to the 2nd century AD is essentially a thank you note for a shady cash gift. The inscription immortalizes the words of a Roman emperor who accepted piles of silver from a city anxious to demonstrate its loyalty, but not actually have to do much else, and certainly not have to deal with an imperial visit. On The Guardian, Natalie Haynes has been brilliantly writing about decline and fall, what Donald Trump can learn from the Roman emperors, so do check out these links on the Facebook page. I've been really interested by this. There's been a sensational find in, now I'm going to completely mispronounce this, Zaporizhzhia Oblast, which is an area in the southern Ukraine. They have come across the grave of a tall Scythian warrior buried about 2,500 years ago. And this is on the island of Khortytsia, kind of in southern Ukraine. It's a rare find. The warrior is about 35 to 40 years old. His teeth are in perfect condition, and he was extremely tall. He was a Scythian warrior. Love it. A rare hoard in the UK has been identified, linked potentially to Boudica, rebel booty. So this is absolutely brilliant. That's from the Times. Metro News, 180-year-old Roman photos set to sell for a colossal £120,000. Absolutely brilliant. 78 images taken between 1840 and 1860, snapped by some of the earliest professional photographers of amazing ancient sites across Rome. Absolutely brilliant. I absolutely love this idea. Would love to have some of those photos. Extraordinary. Many of you have been commenting on this on the Facebook page. Harrison Ford going to reprise his role as Indiana Jones for the 5th and final movie. So they're now absolutely saying they are not going to give this role to anyone else after Harrison Ford decides to hang up his hat. It's Harrison Ford is the only Indiana Jones there will be, which I think is a very good decision. And no one could step into his shoes. But we can't wait to see what a 78-year-old Harrison Ford playing Indiana Jones looks like. And as many people have commented, perhaps a few less aliens this time. And kind of we'll see what else they come up with in the script. There's been, what else have we got here? Story of the silk and gold clad woman buried in London's Spitalfields market 1600 years ago. Kind of absolutely brilliant. That's all been put together and that's come out in The Independent. And then I want to see this as well on Netflix, The Dig, right, which is going to be absolutely brilliant with Ralph Fiennes and Carey Mulligan. Can't wait for this, talking about the discovery of Sutton Hoo and a bit of the Anglo-Saxon ship burial at Sutton Hoo. I can't wait for that dramatisation. I think that's going to be really, really good. And I think it's so interesting that people are getting as interested in the stories of excavation, the amazing stories so often behind excavation, as much as the ancient things that have been discovered themselves. This is one of the things that's really inspiring me to write this book that I'm writing at the moment. X Marks the Spot is the proto title that's going to be coming out, hold your breath, in 2023. So I am writing as we speak, just finished up the first chapter just last week, so that's really exciting. And I'm getting so fascinated by the discovery stories as much as about the discoveries themselves. So it's great to see Netflix picking up on that as well. Horrible Histories are going to relaunch in 2021. So this Scholastic is to relaunch the children's series Horrible Histories with new look covers and a new Secret Diary series. Looking forward to that. And then Lego Ideas could be about to set sail for the ancient world as a Roman warship design has become the latest project to attract 10,000 supporters. It's going to be a galley-style ship, will now be considered for release as a future set at the next LEGO Ideas review stage. I had no idea this was how LEGO decided on what kind of new things to reveal and release to the world as LEGO sets you could buy. Because obviously we had the LEGO Colosseum that came out, absolutely massive. And now we're going to potentially, if this can win through the Ideas review, anyone here has an in on the LEGO Ideas review stage, try and get a good vote in there for the Roman warship. That looks absolutely brilliant. Okay, so I think we've got time for a couple more questions. Have they got a pyramid? Have they got a pyramid in the LEGO series? There's a good question, Linda. I don't know. Is there an Egyptian pyramid in the LEGO series? Does anyone out there know? Hopefully, there is a pyramid there. As long as it would be great if it could be like a half pyramid, wouldn't it? So that you could actually then have constructed inside the different chambers. So rather than it just being a full pyramid, you could sort of see all the different chambers on the inside of, say, the Great Pyramid at Giza or something like that. That would be good fun. Anyone who lets us know, anyone who's an absolute Lego enthusiast, let us know as to whether or not you can get a good Egyptian pyramid. What about a Parthenon? Surely there must be a Parthenon. Yeah, you're from Brazil. All good for you. Thank you so much indeed for joining in. And hopefully you agree about all the great things that people from all over the world and all different cultures and can bring to the study of the ancient world, and particularly those of the Greeks and Romans. Thank you so much indeed for tuning in. So questions. Dawn Adams, you were asking, what do you think Europe would look like today if the Persians had beaten the Athenians and Rome had lost to Hannibal? So this is a really interesting question, isn't it? And this lovely counterfactual history, the what ifs, and how might things have changed as a result? What kind of dominoes might have fallen? What do you think Europe would look like today if the Persians beat the Athenians in the battles of Salamis, or Marathon, Salamis, Plataea? So the Persians have basically overrun Greece at the beginning of the 5th century. So possibly, depends entirely how the Persians decided to act once that had happened, because Persian ways of doing things was, once military control was established and submission had been kind of guaranteed, had been kind of made by the different states, actually they would institute quite sort of light touch governance, create a satrapy. So you can imagine there would have been a Greek satrapy or a couple of different Greek satrapies, and the Persian emperor king would have gone kind of on his way happily back. Athens, depending on whether this happened the first time at Marathon or Salamis, might have actually been even more destroyed than it was, and perhaps it would have been set up as the example of what not to do. You mustn't betray the Persians or go against the Persians going forward. So we might not have had the development then of Athenian democracy in any way, shape or form. Might not have had the creation, certainly wouldn't have had the creation of the Athenian Empire, and so probably not the Parthenon or any of those kind of buildings. One imagines though that other Greek city-states would have been allowed to sort of carry on in a certain degree with their own kind of cultural degrees, but that would have meant Persian influence would then have spread through into Greece, perhaps then further into the Mediterranean. You wouldn't have got the bleed necessarily over quite so much of Greek culture through over into Italy, Sicily, and you might have had much more kind of Persian techniques, traditions, cultures and ideas instead making that move. Then Rome kind of growing up as a culture, expanding through Italy, then of course taking on the big other sort of North African empire at the time, the Carthaginians. What if they had lost? If Rome had lost dominance at that point, it would never have expanded to become the kind of unipolarity that was controlling the whole of the Mediterranean. Would not have come to conquer Greece, and as a result, we know a lot of the things we know about Greece that have survived from ancient Greece is actually because the Romans decided to take that up as a kind of cultural legacy of importance and maintain it, think about it, react to it, copy it down, transmit it, etc. So we might actually know a lot less about ancient Greece if it had come under Persian control and then if the Carthaginians had defeated the Romans and the Romans couldn't then come to conquer Greece. So that's really interesting to think about. Would Rome have gone on to achieve any of the things that it then did in having the empire it did? Would it have ever made it to Britain? Would there be any kind of Roman influence on Britain? Patricia's just said that. Yeah, would they have conquered Britain? Probably not. Would the Carthaginians instead have decided to expand and actually influence Italy? So would that Phoenician Carthaginian culture coming very much originally from Tyre and the area of the Levant have had much more impact on mainland Italy? And as a result, when things got through to the era of the Renaissance and people were suddenly reconnecting with those cultures of ancient Greece and Rome, what would they have been reconnecting with? And how would the Renaissance have been different as a result? And so it goes on. And I think that's absolutely brilliant to imagine kind of how the West's kind of very history, fabric, cultures, ideas, identities may well have been completely different, as well as, of course, the fate of the Carthaginians. Where would they have expanded? Where would they have stopped? Where would the Persians have stopped? Kind of how might that have then translated forward? No Alexander the Great, so kind of what would no Greek influence over in Asia Minor? No kind of end of the Persian Empire? How long would that have continued for? And how would that have changed the histories of northern India, of Central Asia, the development of the Silk Roads? What would China have been interacting with as a result? All absolutely incredible and fascinating thoughts. So Dawn, brilliant question, loved it. Kerry, Benyon Davis, what sort of music was performed in ancient Greece and Rome? Well, here I stand aside because my musical talent is minimal at best, and I say kind of go and have a look on YouTube for the brilliant work of Armand Dangour, particularly his work on ancient music and his bringing together of ancient musical instruments to actually recreate what ancient music might have sounded like. So just Google that on YouTube. Thinking about Latin, actually, yeah, would we have been reading Latin? No. What would the influence then on our languages have been kind of going forward? Our very language would have been totally different. Absolutely great fun. Well done, Dawn, indeed, for that. Michaela, you are asking about the Saturnalia and love the fact that people have been saying to one another, yo, Saturnalia, already. Absolutely fantastic. Yes, of course, the Saturnalia, which was the ancient Roman festival, kicking off today, the 17th of December, and running through kind of till about the 23rd. And now Saturn was an agricultural deity, but kind of very much was perceived as having kind of ruled over the world when the whole world, the universe was in a golden age of bygone era, kind of golden age. And so the Saturnalia was very much on Saturn and this idea of going back to that kind of golden age in which everything was just great. So it was all about feasting, it was all about partying, it was all about letting your hair down a little bit and enjoying overturning often of social norms. So it'd be during the Saturnalia in Rome that masters would serve their slaves for a little bit instead of slaves serving their masters. And they would elect a king of the Saturnalia who was the kind of mischief maker and rule breaker par excellence. There would be public banquets and there would be gift giving as well. So this idea of gift giving, particularly of small figurines, kind of in pottery or kind of in wax or whatever it might be. So there kind of it's elements of gift giving. And of course, there is a clear overlap because as Christianity spread through the Roman Empire and there was an attempt to kind of make Christianity a religion more palatable to be taken on as the official religion of the Roman Empire, more easily taken on by the masses of the Roman world, one of the things that gets kind of aligned nicely over Saturnalia is of course the celebration of the birth of Jesus and of Christmas. So there's kind of, you can see these bleeds of interesting ideas between the Saturnalia and kind of Christmas, particularly kind of thinking around the gift giving. But Linda doesn't want any fish sauce, thank you very much. So, yo Saturnalia, happy Saturnalia to everyone. Indeed, our time is up already. On that note, can you believe it? Well, I am going to leave you guys all to go and appoint your own kings of mischief, kings of the Saturnalia. And I hope that you have a very nice Saturnalia over the next couple of days. Even more importantly, a good, restful, peaceful, happy and safe Christmas and festive period wherever you are in the world. And I'm going to leave you, I promised you a couple of jokes this time. And I've gone back to the Philogelos, the laughter lover, that great ancient Greek text collection of jokes. And a number of them fall into the fields of the incompetent person. Right. So here's two of my favourite incompetent jokes from ancient Greece. An incompetent school teacher was asked who the mother of Priam, king of Troy, was. Not knowing the answer, he said simply, well, it's polite to call her ma'am. I think we've all tried to work out a good way out of questions we don't know the answer to in the past. So I think that was quite a smart little school teacher, actually, rather than an incompetent one. But here we go. And here we go. Now, a man just back from a trip abroad went to an incompetent fortune teller. He asked about his family, and the fortune teller replied, everyone is fine, especially your father. But when the man objected that his father had actually been dead for 10 years, the incompetent fortune teller cleverly and quickly replied, but you have no clue who your real father is. And probably left that poor person with some real worries about their lineage, just to get out of having been found to be a really, really bad fortune teller. So there you go, some good ancient Greek jokes for you to round off the season. Happy Saturnalia, stay safe everyone, look after yourselves. And when are we next getting a chance to meet? When shall we all meet again? It will be 2021, and I hope that I think we all hope that it's going to be a much happier, safer and easier year. 2021, 14th of January, 5 p.m. I'll be here. Keep sending in your questions. Get in touch via the Facebook page. Get in touch over email. And we look forward to seeing you all safe and well in 2021. And here's to a great year ahead of us. Take care, everyone. Bye.